morning, everybody. I appreciate everybody being here. Good morning to the court and all the elected officials. This time I'd like to call this meeting to order. Call the roll, please.
Master Combs, Master Barger.
Here.
Master Tudor.
Here.
Master Botkin.
Present.
Judge Taylor.
Here. At this time, I'm going to invite John to lead us in a word of prayer.
Let's pray, please. Dear Heavenly Father, we give you thanks for the opportunity to meet in your presence, Lord, that this court will make the decisions that are best for this community, Lord. We pray that you'll be with each and every decision that we made. We pray that you'll be with each citizen of this county, Lord, and keep them safe as we work to move forward. We pray, Lord, that this county will be a better county to live and work and raise a family in, Lord, for the decisions that are made here today. We pray for this country, Lord. We thank you for our servicemen here and far that's serving to keep this country safe and free. And we thank you for your Son, Jesus Christ, and for him coming and dying on the cross for our sins, Lord. We thank you for everything you've done in our lives. We ask this in your precious name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, John. Good. Sheriff, if you will, lead us in the pledge.
The woman will please stand and face her flag. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated.
Thanks, Sheriff. Guys, y'all had a chance to look over the minutes from the previous meeting, which our meeting was on January the 28th, 9:30 in the morning, right here in the Madison County Fiscal Courtroom. If you all approve these minutes as presented, I need a motion and a second, please.
Motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, call the roll, please.
Master Barger.
Yes.
Master Tudor.
Yes.
Master Botkin.
Yes.
Judge Taylor.
Yes. Next, our treasurer's report, but our treasurer's report is always on the fourth Tuesday of the month, so we'll have that at our next meeting. The first thing today, guys, is I would like is a motion and a second to amend the agenda to remove number 8, which is the first reading of ordinance 2008 MetroNet franchise agreement. We're not quite ready for that, and so I didn't want to rush and put that on. So I would ask y'all's permission to take that off the agenda today.
So moved.
Moved. Okay, second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Call the roll.
Master Barger.
Yes.
Master Tudor.
Yes.
Master Botkin.
Yes.
Judge Taylor.
Yes. Next is a briefing update from the Chemical Weapons Disposal Project update. Craig Williams, appreciate you being here today, buddy.
Nice to see everybody. It's been a long time since I've been here. We've been a little bit busy, and so have you all. Let's see. What am I doing here? Well, anybody know how to work this thing?
There's 2 guys that are listening right
I'm
now.
about to say, they gotta switch you over.
I'd say they'll be here in a minute.
Hey.
There we go.
There you go.
There we are.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Right, so here we are. A lot of us never thought this day would come, and I'll tell you why shortly.
You
But,
need the light on?
huh?
You need the light on?
A little bit would help. That's good. Just kind of. Okay, let's see. There we go. So we're going to briefly talk about these topics here. I'm going to try to be brief. Colleen said I had 5 minutes, which is impossible, but I'll do the best I can. As you know, there's 2 basic technologies that are being used at the depot and will be used to destroy the chemical weapons that are stored out there. Those are the 2. There's a website there you can go to get more information. And of course, you can always go to the Aqua website. It's PEO Aqua, and to find out more information. And by the way, we have some folks with us today from Aqua. We have the Public Affairs Manager, General Manager, Sarah Marco, formerly Sarah Park, I still call her. The Deputy Project Manager on the government side, Carl Slogenhoff. Perfect. Thank you. And the Bechtel's Public Affairs Chief, Mark York. So they're all with us today to make sure I present things correctly. So many of you were at this ribbon cutting ceremony on the 29th of May, which celebrated the beginning of operations. And so here's where we are currently. The mustard projectile operations began on 7 June and is going along. The GB projectile disposal operations began on 17 January. And the collective we, since the community is really a big part of this whole project, have destroyed 18 tons, or 3.44% of the stockpile has been destroyed as of the 31st of January. Now, the mustard campaign has had some challenges, and I'll explain why. Some of the seals in the explosive detonation chamber, that's the brand name is static detonation chamber. When they used that technology in Anniston, Alabama, the mustard that they had there was called distilled mustard. It has a different chemical makeup than the mustard we have here, which is Levenstein mustard. And it's that difference in the chemical makeup of the two mustards that are causing some problems, deterioration with some of the seals in the SDC. So they've had to stop and redo the seals. They've had to stop and use some modifications to what the seals are made of in order to try and prevent this recurring problem. That has slowed things down, but they have made progress. They continue to process, but it's not at the rate that they wanted to do it. But they anticipate once they get that seal problem remedied permanently, that they should be able to ramp back up to the objective throughput numbers. With the GB projectiles, there's been no major challenges with those. They've been processing GB projectiles since the 17th of January, and it's going very well. The overall operational schedule is still cited to be on in December 2023 to have it completed. So that's where we are right now, and I am very, and I know you all are very pleased to hear for the first time that they're actually getting rid of this stuff and not just looking down the road at how to do it, when to do it. They're actually doing it. And it's a day that I wasn't sure I'd ever live to see. But, here we are, and so we're very thankful and appreciative of all the efforts that have gone into this by both the military, the contractor, and our congressional delegation. This is now important. Oops, there we go. So these are the expenditures and personnel numbers to date. And you can see there that there's been quite a bit of money spent in Kentucky and in Madison, surrounding counties. The local payroll has topped $1 billion to date, and obviously will continue on until the project is over. There's currently 1,259 workers on the project here in Richmond. That's as of the end of last year. That number is about the same now based on our latest information, but that gives you an idea of the number of workers that are working on this project right here in Richmond. And the next slide talks to the forecasted payroll and forecasted personnel numbers associated with the project. And it's easy to see that as we move forward, the numbers go up for a while as far as payroll and personnel, but then around 2023, 2024, things start to decline simply because we're getting towards the end of the project. And that's an area that we've been focused on with a lot of diligence lately as to what do we do when the chemical weapons are gone. How do we incorporate the workforce into our existing industry or attract other industries or use them at the depot in some form or fashion so that we don't experience a significant downfall in the employment numbers and the tax base and so on. So in that regard, there'll probably be around 1,500 more or less workers at the depot at the end of the day. There are no other chemical weapons disposal sites for them to go to pick up this work. This is the last one. Many of these folks are here from other sites, and they've been doing that quite regularly, going from one site, it finishes, they go to the next, it finishes, they go to the next, it finishes. This is the last one. So there's no place for those people to go. The impact, if we don't try to address this problem, will reach many, many aspects of our community. Everything from schools, roads, everything. And of course, the CSEP program as well. So we have formed a economic impact collaborative to look at who these people are, what are their skills, what can we do with them, and what can we provide that is, okay, here we are. And this is a long list, but I just wanted to impress upon you the collaborative that the Economic Impact Working Group of the Advisory Board has put together, which is co-chaired by myself and David Binge. And as you can see in this first page, we have some very high placed people within Bechtel National and Bechtel Enterprises who have been providing in-kind research, data collection, and examples of some industries that we might be able to attract here at no charge, in kind, pro bono. And so we've appreciated that so much, and we recently have been told that their work thus far has topped probably about $125,000 worth of work they've done for us in this community so far. And they are very dedicated to continuing this until the closure is done and we have things in place to funnel these workers and to find them something to do, and also to discuss what we might do with the infrastructure once it's gone. At the bottom of the page, you'll notice that the state people listed there are to be determined, and that's because of the change in leadership in Frankfurt. We had met with the chief of staff for Governor Bevin and this commissioner. All those people were on board. We met with them several times. They were engaged in the process, and now they're gone. Except for the executive director for the Kentucky Commission on Military Affairs. He's been retained by the new governor. So we're glad of that because he's very involved and very supportive of what we're doing. And I must be hitting the wrong button or something. There we go. Also, we have our elected officials are completely behind what we're doing. I was in D.C. not too long ago and met with Senator McConnell, Senator Paul, and Representative Barr in person, sat down and walked through a lot of the things we're talking about. They're very supportive, and they're on call to do whatever it is we ask them to do in this regard to try and provide a healthy economy post-D-mill. We also have many CAC CD-CAB members and others that are included in this effort, and that are not all mentioned here, but some of them are. I'd like to call your attention to the Deputy Commander for the Army Joint Material Command. She will be visiting us the end of March to meet with the Economic Development team to talk about inside the fence line potential operations post-D-mill. We're working on both inside the fence line and outside the fence line. And as you can imagine, inside the fence line is a lot more complicated because it's federal property and there's a chain of command and they have a specific mission already, and anything that's going to vacillate from where they are and what they're doing right now needs to be discussed at pretty high levels up the food chain. So we have Ms. Fisher's coming in to do just that on the 31st of March. So we're looking forward to that visit. There's a picture of myself and some of the Bechtel people that met with Senator McConnell back in October. It was very well received. He was completely all in on this, as was Senator Paul and Andy Barr. All of them were very hospitable and very interested in what we're talking about. Now that section of the statute is in very small print intentionally because it's kind of long and complicated, but basically what it says is anything that has to do with chemical weapons post-D-mill has to be taken down, with the exception of certain things that were not touched by agent. So if it wasn't touched by agent, it's good to go post-D-mill. If it's been touched by agent, it can still be used depending on what it is and whether or not the Army, the Secretary of the Army, the Governor of the state, and KDEP, the Kentucky Department of Environmental Protection, all agree that this particular piece of equipment can be reused because it's been decontaminated to a point where it's safe. That's all going to be discussed in the future as we move forward. The BGAD primary mission could continue or expand post-D-mill. It depends on what kind of equipment and how their mission might adjust. For example, We have an SDC 1200 that is now processing mustard rounds, and we have an SDC 2000 that's coming in and is already, the construction is underway, that's going to be also used to destroy some of the weapons remnants. Those two items cost about $50 million apiece. They are able to dispose of any kind of munition that the depot currently does in their conventional weapons mission. Right now, if they have weapons that come in that are deteriorated or have expired, if they need to get rid of them and they can't recycle them or reuse them, they blow them up outside. We've all heard the explosions going on out there, and we think, and they agree, that it would be a lot safer to do it in one of these EDTs. It would eliminate the air pollution, it would eliminate the ground pollution, and so on and so forth. So those are the kinds of ideas that we're talking about with JMC, with the depot, with the National Academy of Sciences and others, to see how we can best use the equipment that's still going to remain there. Oops. Okay. In addition, we've been working with the Department of Defense's Office of Economic Adjustment. One of their roles is to assist communities who have major defense projects or depots or Army or Navy installations that are leaving a certain area and are going to have a negative impact on that area once they either curtail that major project or that depot or the fort or whatever completely closes. In this case, we're looking at it because this is a major defense project that has a finite completion date. Once that happens, the Office of Economic Adjustment can provide financial assistance to the county as well as technical support that would integrate with the collaborative we've already put together and provide additional assistance, guidance, and funding in order to try and prevent a negative downturn post-DMIL. So as you can see, there's been a lot going on. I think the highlights are obviously that we're underway as far as disposal goes. The other highlight, in my opinion, is the collaborative effort that's already underway when we're 3 to 4 years out from completion of the project, and we've got the number and caliber of people involved in trying to make sure that we provide a sound economic future for the community and don't lose these 1,500 workers just like that, and they just go away. So that's where we're at. I appreciate your time and your attention, and if there's any questions or comments, I'll be glad to take them.
Is that a 24/7 operation?
It is. 24/7, CSEP's 24/7 now as well. Roger?
You got any idea, building-wise, how many buildings might be able to be saved to use for future?
Well, I don't know number-wise. I do know that the munitions disposal building, or the MDB, where the weapons are taken apart and agent actually volatilizes into some of those rooms, that'll be gone. The SDC, or the explosive detonation technology that's currently processing the mustard, even though it is agent exposed, like Aniston, who did mustard in theirs, once they completed that mustard campaign, they decontaminated it to a point where they could reuse it for conventional weapons. So our confidence is high that when the time comes, there will be a decision made that both the SDC 1200 and the SDC 2000 can be reused for the conventional weapons mission, assuming that everybody agrees, which is, there's 4 magistrates and a judge, and you all agree most of the time. You can only imagine the number of people involved in this that would have to agree to something like that. But we're working on it. We think it's a very viable asset to the long-term vitality of the depot, so we're hoping that that works. The other things like the water tanks and the laboratory and the personnel building, all of those structures can be reused. Depends on what they're going to reuse them for and who says it's okay.
There's also a great amount of electrical power going into that facility.
That substation out there is ready to go for whatever's next. All of the infrastructure, like the utilities, water, power, all that sort of thing is just there waiting to be used for something.
Right.
The question is, what is it used for? I mean, it's about $1.5 billion worth of infrastructure will remain once the project's over and the MDB is taken down. That's a sizable amount of value, and we're trying to figure out, and I say we, the bigger we, trying to figure out exactly what would be the best use of that. And possibly we can retain some of those workers at that site for another project. We don't know that just yet.
Thank you.
Greg, I think
Yeah, John?
our number one concern has always been the safety of getting rid of this nerve gas, mustard gas, in a safe manner. But I think our number two concern has always been what economic impact that was going to amount to our county. The loss of jobs, the loss of tax base, the loss of the ability to use the depot out there for other uses. And collaboration between some of the groups that you've told us about today is really promising in finding new industry, new possibilities, new projects that can come in out there and start up from what is left after the deal's over with. And so that's some good news to hear also. Thank you for that.
Well, you're welcome, and I'd just like to point out that my involvement in this has been long and detailed, and I'm so impressed with the caliber of the people that are operating this plant and the safety precautions that are taken. I mean, right down to the smallest item, and Reagan will tell you, you know, I'm in meetings, 2-3 meetings a week still on this thing after all this time. You would think that, you know, all this would have been figured out, but as they go, just like these seals on the SDC, they couldn't anticipate that because it's never been done with this type of material. And so we have meetings about that. What's the schedule now? How can they rectify it? All these sorts of things. And then the economic piece is what I've been spending a great deal of time on. And pulling this collaborative together and the help of Bechtel and Bechtel Enterprises has been enormous. And I just picked up yesterday from somebody that there's another contractor out there who would also like to jump in and help. So we've got a lot of expertise in that area, and I'm very optimistic about it. So,
The last tour that I took out there, I talked with one of the engineers out there, and we were discussing what if we had proceeded with this project 20 years ago. And he said it might have worked, but the technology is so much more advanced, it's so much safer now than it was 20 years ago. We've learned from the other Aniston and from out in Colorado, Pueblo, Colorado, the other facilities that we've had to run a D-mill on. All that information has been compiled and used as learning tools for what we're doing now. And like you said, each step and each process, you have to adjust it to meet that capability or what needs to be done at that time. And I'm thankful that, you know, we've got so much more modern technology than we had 20 years ago when we tried to
sometimes it's
do
not bad being last.
Yeah.
That's right.
I mean, you learn a lot of stuff from your predecessors.
There's advantages sometimes.
And we've done that, and I got to tell you, the team out there and the leadership, I'm not sure if you all have met the new program executive officer yet, but I mean, he comes out of the chemical corps in Aberdeen, Maryland, sharp guy, and just his focus on safety is sometimes feels it's a little bit more than, but who are we to judge? If he thinks it needs to be tweaked in order to be safer, you know, then we run the traps on what it is they're changing and so on, and everybody reaches an agreement and we go on. So it's a very adequate, more than adequate, a very diligent and expert team that we have working out there. Tommy, you got anything?
Yeah, I was just curious, how successful were they at repurposing Aniston's?
Oh, very. They're using it today.
Good.
Yeah, they use it for mostly for small ammunition, bullets and bombs, smaller bombs. Because we'll have this SDC 2000, we'll be able to process in a contained environment some of these larger conventional rounds. Assuming, again, I have to qualify it, assuming everybody agrees that we can use it, that's what we're gonna use it for. I mean, it takes, you know, you gotta go through all the steps. But yes, theirs has been very successful, and in fact, the gentleman who ran the Aniston project down there is now a senior advisor to our project here. Tim Garrett is his name, and he's top notch. So I'm going to ask my friends from the project if there's something that they'd like to add, or something that I didn't say correctly, Mark? You're giving me that look of, okay, good. So,
Well, I would just say to all of you, Craig, you know, I know you've been working on it since you had hair and
I haven't had hair since I got back in Vietnam, 1969, but I appreciate
It's
the
a good one
thought.
to bring that up.
Yeah,
for
yeah,
for everyone that else that's out there, you know, when we were touring it, we saw some of the just minute, not in the operations, but I mean, just some of the things that we saw as we were going through and touring it was impressive. And, you know, the fact with what you're dealing with every single day and the fact that people are dedicated to follow procedures every single day, and, I mean, it's impressive, and we certainly appreciate all your efforts out there.
well, thank you so much, and I appreciate you all's support over the years.
Thank you.
And Reagan too, he co-chairs the advisory board with me, and sometimes he tells me I need to stop talking. But I don't pay any
Hey,
attention to him.
one time I've said something to be funny.
Yeah,
you
when I
never
wasn't
let me
there,
down.
I know,
Yeah.
you waited until I was in the
Yeah.
hospital to say
Yeah,
it.
that's right. That's
All right.
that was when it was the safest time to say it.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. Appreciate it a lot. Appreciate the update. Thanks, guys. Next, second reading of ordinance 2002, weight restrictions on county roadways. An ordinance relating to the prohibition of certain trucks using designated county streets and roadways for through traffic or through streets and roads. Whereas the Madison County Fiscal Court is responsible for the maintenance of Madison County roadways, and whereas certain types of overweight vehicles place additional stress on road systems that were not intended for such a weight, and whereas reducing weight on roadways will reduce damage to and destruction of county roadways and will preserve the integrity of county roadways, and whereas preservation of county roadways provides for public safety and convenience on county highways. Now therefore be it ordained by the Fiscal Court of the County of Madison, Commonwealth of Kentucky, the following. Between the hours of 5 a.m. and 11:59 p.m., it shall be prohibited for any semi-trailer, truck, tractor, or trailer as defined by KRS 189.010 to use county roadways and streets designated by the Madison County Fiscal Court herein, or as hereafter designated by said fiscal court, to be used as or for the purpose of through traffic and as a through street or road, except for such designated trucks may use designated streets and roads if said streets and roads are necessary for a delivery or pickup of goods, materials, or merchandise to a resident, owner, or property which requires the use of said designated street or road to make or complete such delivery or pickup. The ordinance shall not prohibit any use authorized under 603 KAR 5250 governing reasonable access to National Truck Network highways. Section 2, the county streets and roads designated by Madison County Fiscal Court as streets and roads which are subject to a prohibition described in Section 1 are attached hereto as Attachment A. Any person, corporation, or other legal entity who violates any provision of this ordinance shall be fined not less than $10 or more than $500 per violation. If it's the pleasure of the court, I need a motion and a second for second reading of ordinance 2002, weight restrictions on county roadways.
Move.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion at this time?
I think Reagan, or excuse me, being an informal judge, that part of the a key factor, and it's really just a one-word thing, but it really loses a lot of meaning. It's just the fact of the simple safety factor involved in this. You know, our infrastructure, yes, it's destroying this, but people's lives are put at jeopardy every single day by semi-trucks cutting across narrow roads just to get from, in some cases, one interstate exit to the other. And so I'm glad to see this. I know that it's when there's people heard it. I've heard some questions about it, and it's a little vague at some points, but it's really it's a good thing and it serves a good purpose.
Well, and I think it allows us to, you know, we have an issue out there. I mean, Willie, you're here today to attest to that. We have an issue out there, and I think it gives us something that we can build on, you know, and try to make it to fit our exact purpose. But
It allows us to put signage up and
enforce it, right? You know, and a lot of times I think, you know, a lot of these guys may be dodging DOT, you know, vehicle enforcement or whatever, and so this really helps, I think, in allowing us to police it and protect our infrastructure and ultimately, I mean, the taxpayer dollar. So,
Yes.
so I think it's good. Any other questions from the court? Comments? Is there any public comment on this today? This is the second reading. This ordinance has been advertised, and so we allow for public comment at this time on ordinance 2002 weight restrictions on county roadways. Seeing none, let's call the roll in.
What was the motion second? I missed it.
Oh, you weren't here.
You made a motion.
Motion and
No.
Tom seconded.
Second.
Okay. Master Tudor,
Yes.
Master Barger,
Yes,
Master Botkin,
Yes.
Judge Taylor. I got that out of the way.
Yes.
sorry, you got me out of order.
That's right.
All right. Good job, guys.
I got
Thanks.
me out of order.
Thanks, Willie.
Thank you.
So next is the first reading of ordinance 2003. This is the courthouse renovation funding. An ordinance of the County of Madison, Kentucky, authorizing the issuance of its County of Madison, Kentucky General Obligation Note, Series 2020 N-1, in a maximum aggregate principal amount of $6 million, subject to a permitted adjustment increasing the principal amount of the note by up to $600,000 or decreasing the principal amount of the note by any amount, for the purpose of financing all or a portion of the cost of the acquisition, construction, equipping, and installation of capital improvements to certain county facilities, approving the form of the note, authorizing designated officers to execute and to deliver the note, authorizing and directing the filing of a notice with the state local debt officer, providing for the payment and security of the note, creating a note payment fund, reaffirming and continuing the previously established sinking fund, authorizing acceptance of the winning bid of the purchaser for the purpose of the note, authorizing the execution and delivery of a note purchase agreement with the purchaser of the note, and repealing inconsistent ordinances. So if y'all approve in first reading of ordinance 2003, courthouse renovation funding, I need a motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion at this time?
Judge, we mentioned this once before, but this is a fund that is allowed down to us from the administrative office of the courts to revamp, remodel, reconstruct some of the courthouse here that we're in right now, to make it available for another courtroom and possibly work through some court system a lot faster with 2 courtrooms. And so this project is going to be paid for by the court system, and I think it's a good thing to go ahead and follow through with.
Yeah, and I want to make sure the court understands, basically, this first portion of this is basically like a construction note. It's giving us funding to be able to do the construction of the courthouse, which ultimately, once we get through this portion of it, then we would get actual bond, which is more of a long-term note that we would pay off over 20 years, and the ALC pays that off. So there's no actual out-of-pocket money to us
Right.
and to the citizens of Madison County from a local tax perspective. I mean, it's not local tax dollars that's being used here, but we have to have this money in order to pay for the construction of the project. And then once we get through this portion, we'll do a bond. So I thought this was the best way to handle it, so that we're not having to get a bond now, not knowing exactly how much the project's going to end up being total. So, is there any other questions or anything? And of course, this is the first reading, so we'll have an advertisement for a second reading, have public comment for all those that maybe ask questions or anything like that. So, all right. Seeing none, call the roll, please.
Master Botkin,
Yes,
Master Barger,
Yes.
Master Tudor,
Yes.
Judge Taylor.
Yes. Next is the first reading of ordinance 2004. This is a budget amendment for the road fund. Glenn, good morning.
Good morning. This is Budget Amendment 2004, an ordinance relating to the annual budget amendment thereof, whereas Madison County, Kentucky has realized unbudgeted receipts, be it ordained by Madison County of the Commonwealth of Kentucky. The budget for the current fiscal year is amended to increase the receipts of the following funds, which is the road fund, into the line item transportation cabinet, $383,175, going to the appropriation line item of reserve for transfers, for the same amount, $383,175. And these funds came from where we've done projects that we were not anticipating. Most of the work was done in last year, but we didn't get reimbursed until this year, so we did not have these receipts in our budget.
At this time, I need a motion and a second to approve the first reading of ordinance 2004 budget amendment road fund.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? One thing I want to make aware is that this is money we've already spent.
Yes,
So this is not like that we in the road fund have an additional $383,000. We're basically paying ourselves back,
yes.
filling back in line items that we've
Yes,
pulled-
we've had to
pulled
borrow from other line items to pay these costs out, and then we're getting reimbursed back.
Yep.
This is something, Glenna, we felt like we were gonna receive back, but just didn't know the time limit when we were gonna receive these funds back in.
Yes.
So we couldn't put that in our budget.
Yes.
But now we can amend that to our budget.
Yeah, and a lot of times we don't know about a project, it just comes up after we've done our budget, and they say, we've got some discretionary monies for this project we're gonna give to you. We have no idea when we're creating the budget, so
Well,
we have
it's
to.
always good to have money coming in rather than going out all
But
the time.
they will not let us budget amend it in
No.
until we actually get the money.
Get the money.
Absolutely. yeah.
So, we have to come up with, if it's a $200,000 project, we've gotta come up with that 200,000 to pay out, send
And
them
what-
all the canceled checks and everything to get reimbursed, and then we can budget amend it into our.
I mean, a perfect example is Pilot Knob Cemetery Road. I mean, we just had that slide happen, and so, you know, you don't really know that's gonna happen. Which goes back to our emergency money that we just approved earlier, or, no, we haven't approved it. It's next, it's coming up. We're getting ready to approve it. But our emergency money is why we participate in that program too, so that it gives us a little bit of an insurance policy. So we don't have to have so much of that money up front. So. All right, any more discussion on this? Seeing none, call the roll, please.
Master Barger,
Yes.
Master Tudor,
Yes,
Master Bucket.
Yes.
Judge Taylor.
Yes. Next is first reading of ordinance 2005. This is a budget amendment for the jail fund.
And as we go through the year, I look, and if we've gone over in any line items, it's kind of a cleanup. We budget amend in and get that money into some line item. The jail fund, the surplus from prior year, when we create the budget in April.
Will you read the ordinance, please?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
The ordinance is relating to the annual budget amendment thereof, whereas Madison County, Kentucky has realized unbudgeted receipts, be it ordained by Madison County of the Commonwealth of Kentucky. The budget for this current fiscal year is amended to increase the receipts of the following fund, which is the jail fund, from surplus from prior years, $302,484, to jail reserve for transfer, $302,484. When we do our budget in April, we have to guess what our surplus is going to be. And what the surplus is what's sitting in your checking account on June 30th of that year. So you never know when a payment's gonna come in right before June 30th, or you're gonna pay something out. So we always try to budget conservatively, with a low number. That way we can always budget amend it in, but we don't wanna assume we're gonna have 300,000 in there and then only have 100 sitting in there, and we're $200,000 short, and we've budgeted that money. So, we usually budget conservatively, and we were $302,484 over. So we're gonna budget, amend that into our jail fund.
So, do I have a motion and a second to approve first reading of ordinance 2005, amend our budget amendment for jail fund?
move to approve budget amendment 2005.
All right,
Second.
so I have a motion, second. All right, now we can have discussion. Again, everybody, it's not a secret of what struggles we've had in the jail with the budget, so, I say things happen for a reason. This is obviously a blessing in disguise in a sense because of the situation we are in our jail. You know, our revenues are down in our jail. Our expenditures are up in our jail with housing inmates in other counties. And so this is a good thing.
Very good.
Yep. So any comments, guys, or questions? Now, this doesn't mean, Steve, we got extra money, all right?
I'm listening.
Yeah. This doesn't mean we have extra money. This is just sort of help fulfilling some of those costs that we've gone way over budget on, so.
And we're actually, even the numbers are improving even more.
Yeah, and I figured you would report on that today.
I will.
Yep, so. Any other comments, guys, at this time? Seeing none, call the roll.
Master Tudor,
Yes,
Master Bucket.
Yes.
Master Barger,
Yes.
Judge Taylor.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Next is first reading of ordinance 2006. This is an interlocal agreement between the Madison County Fire Department and the Madison County EMS. Chief's here today to talk to us about this ordinance. Good to see you, buddy. Good morning.
Good morning. An ordinance authorized signature of an interlocal agreement for rescue and extrication services between Madison County Fiscal Court and Madison County EMS. Whereas the Madison County EMS requires rescue and extrication services to perform their role as first responders. And whereas in accordance to 202 KR 7550 EMS may execute an agreement with a subcontractor for extrication. And whereas the Madison County EMS wishes to secure Madison County Fire Department for rescue and extrication services. Whereas this interlocal agreement is entered into the mutual benefit of the parties and is specifically authorized for the Interlocal Cooperation Act set forth in KRS 65.210. Now therefore it be ordained by the Fiscal Court of the Madison County Commonwealth of Kentucky, authorize the judge executive to enter into the attached interlocal agreement with the Madison County EMS.
Thank you, buddy. Appreciate it. At this time, do I have a motion and a second to approve the first reading of ordinance 2006 interlocal Madison County Fire Department and Madison County EMS?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Is there any discussion at this time? I want to make some comments, Chief, just to, I know that since some of these changes have been made over the last week or so, and reached out to the Madison County Rescue Squad within the last month, letting them know we wouldn't be renewing their contract with us to provide the service in the county. And the whole reason behind that is because we, as a department, are going to be providing that service to Madison County. You know, we've all in some form or fashion probably taken some criticism over this. Very proud of Madison County Rescue Squad and what all they've provided over the years. I mean, they have, but I feel like I was elected to make good decisions, administrative decisions, being efficient with taxpayer dollars, and providing the best service to Madison County citizens. And we've had many discussions on this. We as a court have been making decisions for several years to lead up to this, because we've purchased the extrication equipment through grant fundings over the last several years. You know, we've had many discussions, Chief, where we were concerned about showing up to wrecks. I mean, the county decided to start running wrecks before this court actually became on the court in 2015. I mean, we've had many concerns about us showing up and somebody being trapped in a car and not being our fire team not being able to help that person or get that person out because we didn't have the equipment. And so us making this decision, we're trying to provide the very best service. And I've talked to many constituents, and I appreciate those that have reached out to me and to have a conversation versus the ones that have just decided to comment on social media. Because we've had some great conversations with constituents out there. Many constituents have sent messages of support in our decision. But I've asked most everyone that I've talked to, would you rather rely on a volunteer service if you were trapped in a car that may or may not show up? Or would you rather rely on a 24/7 fire department and rescue to be able to provide that service 365 days a year? And there's not one that has said that, well, I'd rather rely on volunteers. Man, I appreciate all those guys and what they've meant to this county. I truly do. But we want to provide the very best service that we possibly can to the citizens of Madison County. And it's not just me. I mean, our EMA staff is part of these conversations. Our fire department is part of these conversations. We've had conversations with our EMS partners, Carlos. We've been engaged with our volunteer fire chiefs. You know, and this is not just up one day we just decided to make this decision. You know, and then there's other reasons that back up our decision as well that I'm not going to get into, because I don't want it to look like that I'm slinging mud, because I'm not going to be that way. But I really believe in your leadership, in Dustin, Jennifer at EMA's leadership, in really providing the best service. And I think in the long run that people look back on this and think, hey, this was the right decision. And not only are we saving tax dollars, we're not duplicating services. So many times in Madison County, we duplicate services. And this is one that we don't have to duplicate services. So
That is one thing I just wanted to ask about, Chief. Is there a X number of bodies that you will have to have dedicated for that support?
No, sir. We're actually a fire department that will provide rescue services. We're not a rescue squad, so we're exempt from that.
And Chief, we're providing those services now.
Yeah, we're doing the same thing we've been doing ever since I've been chief. We're doing the same thing. Nothing changes on our end.
Mm-hmm.
we've actually have covered for the rescue squad when their truck was down. There'd be no change in services.
Or their equipment was messed up, wouldn't work.
Yep, we covered for them, so.
Yeah. So,
Good.
thanks, Chief.
Thank
Appreciate it. Call the roll, please.
Master Bucking?
Yes.
Master Barger?
Yes.
Master Tudor?
Yes.
Judge Taylor?
Yes. Next, the first reading of ordinance 2007. This is the discontinuance of Phelps Spur Road.
Judge, I'd like to make a motion to discontinue the maintenance on Phipps Spur Road.
All right, thanks for the motion. We'll wait just a second for the second. Let me read it real quick.
Okay.
All right. On ordinance relating to the discontinuance of Phelps Spur Road from the county road system, whereas the Madison County Fiscal Court is responsible for the maintenance of Madison County roadways, and whereas a citizen and property owner on Phelps Spur Road has requested the road be removed from the county road system, and whereas KRS 178.070 outlines the process a county uses for discontinuance of a county roadway. Now therefore be it ordained by the Fiscal Court of County of Madison, Commonwealth of Kentucky, that Phelps Spur Road shall be discontinued. So we have a motion, still, correct? For
Second.
first reading of ordinance 2007. We have a second. Any further discussion?
Judge, this is a road that's about 1,000 feet long. It's in my district, and it's one that hasn't had a lot of maintenance on it in the last several years. And so I got a call from one of the residents down there that lives on this road and met with them. And the other landowner that uses this road was in agreements to have it removed from the county road list.
Any other comments? Seeing none, call the roll, please.
Master Barger?
Yes.
Master Tudor?
Yes.
Master Bucking?
Yes.
Judge Taylor?
Yes. Thanks, Willie. You'll make sure that all the signage and everything's up and approved for the second reading
Yes,
and the
sir.
time frames that statute lays out for us.
Yes, sir.
Thanks, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, next is Resolution 2011. This is State Transportation Rural Municipal Road Aid Co-op. A resolution adopting and approving the execution of a county road aid co-op program contract between the Fiscal Court and the Commonwealth of Kentucky Transportation Cabinet Department of Rural and Municipal Aid for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2020, as provided in the Kentucky Revised Statute, and accepting all roads and streets referred to therein as being a part of the county road system. Now therefore be it resolved that the Fiscal Court does hereby accept all roads and streets referred to in said contract as being a part of the county road system, and the Fiscal Court does hereby ratify and adopt all statements, representations, warranties, covenants, and agreements contained in said contract, and does hereby accept said contract, and by such acceptance agrees to all terms and conditions therein stated, and the county judge executive of the county is hereby authorized and directed to sign said contract as set forth on behalf of the Fiscal Court of Madison County, and the county clerk of Madison is hereby authorized and directed to certify thereto. If y'all approving resolution 2011, State Transportation Rural Municipal Road Aid Co-op, I need a motion and a second.
So move.
Second.
Any discussion? So this is what I was referring to earlier, was this is where we participate in the emergency fund program, which is part of this contract, which means that 3% of our funding actually stays with the Transportation Cabinet and allows us to use sort of like an emergency fund, insurance fund, which is where we used for Pilot Knob Cemetery Road. It's a perfect example for right now. The amount of our county road aid fund this year is $1,526,782.19. We'll say it again, $1,526,782.19. Now 3% less is what we would actually get. I think, Glenna, we get 60% basically after sometime,
60 around August.
August,
30 around
30,
February.
and then it leaves 10. And how this money comes to us is through the fuels tax. That is how we get our county road aid and our municipal road aid, is based off of the fuel price at the tank, and then obviously the sales as well. So I think a lot of times that's why they hold the 10%, because your last check might fluctuate a little bit one way or the other based off of what the fuel prices have done for that fiscal year. But we do participate in that emergency fund. So is there any questions or comments about our county road aid co-op?
Judge, the Transportation Department gives the counties, I think, an option of buying into this fund with a 2 or 3% every year, or they can opt out. And we've always opted in, and that's where we have emergency fund available. And in the past, we've always been able to have more emergency fund than we're actually paying in.
That's right.
So I think this is a good thing we need
It
to
is.
continue with.
Well, you know, that
Kind of
3%.
an insurance program.
That 3% is only like $45,000.
Right.
So you know the Pine Knob Cemetery Road alone, I think, was like 54,000. Willie?
Yes.
I think. So yeah, it is. To your point, John, it's good. It's good for us.
But also the gas tax has been down for a number of years.
Oh, yeah.
And that cut into this road aid money, and it's up for being raised. They'll be voting on that up or down.
Well, 2014-15 fiscal year, county road aid was about 1.7 million. And if everybody remembers, that's when fuel prices were like $4 a gallon.
Yeah.
And that's why that amount of money was so high. And so then it came back down to $2 a gallon, which is in 15-16 fiscal year, our county road aid was, I think, 1.3 million. So it's a $400,000 hit based off of what the fuel prices did, which a lot of times, you know, constituents don't know that. And so we have to sort of go with what the funding is doing and the market's doing based off of how many roads we can pave or whatever. So
I think that right now the cost of paving a mile of road 20-foot wide is something like $55,000.
That's correct.
So you can see that fund of $1.5 million is limited to how far we can spend that throughout the whole county. I mean,
and there's a lot more to the road department than just asphalt.
Absolutely,
Too, you know,
yeah.
ditches, culverts, snow removal, salt, equipment. So yeah.
Well, I think that it's important that, and Roger alluded to it, that the consumption fee there at the gas tax is tied to the wholesale index. And I know that they are talking about raising that this year, and in the earlier years, when we first got in, they set up a floor on that at 26 cents. And of course, when gas prices dropped, I mean, it killed not just us, it killed everybody.
Everybody, yeah.
And so they're trying to, I guess, go back and correct where that they had lowered prices before and raise that price up, which means that we can get our roads fixed. You know, I've said once before that, you know, if I can start in the 4th district and start at Road 1 and go all the way to the end of it, that's a 20-year cycle to repave all the roads in the 4th district. And I thought that was bad. You know, I was just at a conference last week and talked to some folks down in Pulaski County, and their road turnaround's 100 years. It's just like, whoa, that's not good.
Yep.
Yeah.
But, you know, 26 is bad enough simply because you can't start at Road 1 and go down all the way straight down through. Some more roads are heavily traveled than others, and you have to have
Sure.
be blacktop more often. So any additional funds that they can get from the road funds to the counties is a good thing.
Yeah. And this, you know, the gas tax though is not just coming to the county. It's cities split it, counties, the state police gets the portions of it. So there's a lot of different entities that are, you know, sort of have their hands in the pot that are grabbing for those dollars. So it's not just a revenue stream specifically for counties. So it is split up amongst many different entities. So anything else on that? Call the roll, please.
Master Tudor,
yes.
Master Bucket.
Yes.
Master Barger,
Yes.
Judge Taylor.
Yes. Next, Resolution 2012, this is ASAP Harm Reduction Grant for FY20. A resolution confirming the Madison County Fiscal Court to serve as the applicant agent for the fiscal year 20 ASAP Harm Reduction Grant and authorizing the judge executive to sign on behalf of the county. Whereas the Madison County Agency for Substance Abuse Policy, which is known as ASAP, board wishes to apply for the fiscal year 20 ASAP harm reduction through the Kentucky ASAP, and whereas the ASAP board needs a local government to serve as its applicant agent, and whereas the fiscal court finds it to be the public interest to continue to address our drug epidemic through education and awareness, and now therefore be it resolved that the fiscal court does hereby approve to serve as the applicant agent and authorizes the judge executive to execute same on behalf of the county. I need a motion and a second for Resolution 2012 ASAP Harm Reduction Grant for fiscal year 20.
Motion to approve Resolution 2012, the ASAP Harm Reduction Grant.
Second.
Thanks, guys. Is there any further discussion?
Well, we have the chairman of that committee here. Maybe she'd be kind enough to tell us how those funds are used.
Absolutely. So we apply twice a year for funding. We apply for general ASAP funds in the summer. And so that's more for prevention and treatment. This is a special grant that's for harm reduction, which is for basically keeping people alive and healthy until they get to treatment. So this year we're focusing on overdose prevention, overdose education. So we'll be funding some Narcan for EMS and then funding local health organizations to be Narcan overdose prevention trainers in the community. So it's a $20,000 grant.
Could you give your name, please? And
Yeah,
title
my
for
name
the
is
record?
Laura Nagel, Nagle.
Laura, tell your title.
So I work for UK. I'm a risk reduction specialist at the health department in our harm reduction program.
Yep. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for being here, too.
Yeah,
Good to
thank
see
you.
you. And as long, guys, as we've all been on the court together, we have been the applicant agent for ASAP. So this is nothing really new to our team and staff, and working together with those folks that are on the ASAP board and trying to meet those needs to really truly fight the biggest scourge that I say has ever hit our community. So, any further discussion? Seeing none, call the roll, please.
Master Buckin?
Yes.
Master Berger?
Yes.
Master Tudor?
Yes.
Judge Taylor?
Yes. A resolution approving Joan Klein to the Madison County Library Board, whereas Joan Klein was submitted to the Madison County Fiscal Court as an individual qualified to serve on the Madison County Library Board in accordance with KRS 173.490, and whereas the Madison County Fiscal Court confirms Joan Klein for the position of Madison County Library Board member, and whereas the term is a 4-year term of service starting January 1st, 2020 and expiring December 31st, 2024. Now therefore be it resolved that the Fiscal Court, that this resolution is hereby approved and that the County Judge Executive is hereby authorized to execute same on behalf of the Fiscal Court. So I need a motion and a second if you all approve Resolution 2013 appointing Joanne Klein as Library Board member.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I don't know Joanne Klein, but if Ruthie Maslin approves her and recommends her, she's well qualified to do a good job out there. I appreciate Ruthie being here today.
Anything else? Seeing none, call the roll, please.
Master Berger?
Yes.
Master Tudor?
Yes.
Master Buckin? Yes. Judge Taylor?
Yes. Thank you. Thanks, Ruthie. Good to see you. Glad you're here today. Next is personnel at the golf course. Gary?
Morning.
Good morning, buddy.
I'd like to get your approval to hire Jeff McCone to replace our head golf shop attendant who resigned 2 weeks ago. Jeff, stand up. Jeff has worked as a seasonal pro shop attendant the past 2 seasons and does an excellent job, so he was a fantastic choice. And I'd like to start him February 12th, tomorrow, at a salary of $12.45.
If y'all approve the recommendation by Gary to hire Jeff McCone, I need a motion and a second, please.
Motion to approve Jeff McCone as the head golf shop attendant at $12.45 effective on 2/12, sorry. 2/12/20. 12/2, boy, you waiting all the time for that.
Yeah.
It's snowing around here.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I have a motion.
Second.
Do we have a second?
Yes.
Any further discussion, guys? Seeing none, call the roll, please.
Master Tudor?
Yes.
Master Buckin?
Yes.
Master Berger?
Yes.
Judge Taylor?
Yes. Thanks.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. Appreciate
Thanks for
your
being
plan.
here, Jeff.
Next is personnel and CSEP. Good morning, Jennifer.
Good morning. We would like to ask the court's permission to promote Terry Bratfish, and this is a 100% CSEP funded position. This was a vacancy. We had an opening for an operations lead. Terry Bratfish was previously the number 2 on this shift. She already was covering and filling that duty. And we feel that this would be a good progression and step for her. The proposed start date would be February 19th of 2020, and the proposed salary would be $20 per hour.
Judge, I'd like to recommend hiring Terry Bradfish for a team lead for the CSAP program.
Is that start date correct too? February 19th?
February 19th.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Just make sure. All right, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? Seeing none, call the roll, please.
Master Bucking,
Yes.
Master Berger,
Yes.
Master Tudor,
Yes.
Judge Taylor.
Yes. Thanks, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Next is personnel in the road department. Willie? Hello again.
With court's permission, I'd like to hire Dakota Begley. He's with us today. His start date will be February the 12th this year. Pay rate $10 per hour. Hired as a CDL trainee general laborer. He was interviewed by myself, Scott Shepard, and Matt Grant.
If y'all approve and Willie's recommendation to hire Dakota Begley as a CDL trainee, general laborer at $10 an hour starting tomorrow on February 12th, 2020. I need a motion and a second, please.
Make a motion to hire Dakota Begley.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, call the roll, please.
Master Berger,
Yes.
Master Tudor,
Yes.
Master Bucking,
Yes.
Judge Taylor.
Yes. Thanks, Willie. Thanks, Dakota. Appreciate you applying. Next, is discussion of election officers. I'm gonna turn it over to
Lost my place. I was up this quick.
Kenny Barger, our county clerk.
I'm bringing to y'all, we are proposing to raise the precinct officer pay by $50. We have two class precinct officers now. One is normal precinct officers. The others are PLC, polling location coordinators. We have those at 15 out of 17 locations. We pay them $200 apiece. We're raising them at $250 and raising the precinct officers to $150. It's an $11,000 increase across the board
Is that 2 elections
per election.
per election?
The money, statute requires discussion to have to make court aware. The money's already in the budget. The money's there for this election coming up. This will be an increase in the November election. May election's already covered. New budget come up for the next election.
And you say it's 11,000 per election increase.
Yep. What we've also done is we've changed how we pay the precinct officers. Before, we paid them $25 for the school. Well, we realized that we had several people coming to the school that never, they called off. They didn't come to work. So we've lowered that down to $10 to discourage folks from doing that, and the rest is the election day. So we're paying much more for the election day than we are for the school. I don't believe in throwing money at problems, but this is a problem we've got across the state. Last election, which is our lowest turnout election, we had, I think, one alternate left, Republican alternate, no Democrat alternates. And with election coming, the turnout we're going to have people in the seats to administer the election. We've done quite a bit on social media promoting this, trying to get people to work. I hope that, my belief is that money doesn't make you do a good job, but it does attract and retain you. We might get a whole different new set of people that are interested for another $50 per day. It's not an easy day. It's about a 13-hour day. A lot goes into it, and there's a lot of responsibility. We have also, the way we've arranged our precincts, this last election, we are sharing, I won't get too far in the weeds on this, but it hits this point. We're sharing scanners. There's no longer a precinct designated to a scanner. When you leave the polling location, you can put your ballot in any one of the scanners there. That frees up how we can set up the polling location. So we set it more up like a polling location versus 4 precincts in a gym. That allows us to flex and do more cross-training with our election officers to allow them to be where they need to be versus I have to stay over here next to this machine, next to this table to make sure somebody doesn't get away with a ballot and try to stick it in the scanner across the room. It also gives us some redundancy in our equipment. Before, if one scanner went down, we had this happen at Clarkmore Middle School, one scanner went down, line out from the cafeteria out the front door. When there's 2 of the precincts sitting there with nobody voting, their scanners are not being used. It just made total sense. And we'll be able to reduce the number of scanners we're sending out. All that being said, we are on the cutting edge, maybe the bleeding edge of what I'm talking about. We have permission from state board to do this, but it is on the edge of statute. Because our statute's very antiquated. It doesn't say you can't do it, but it doesn't say you can. House Bill 388. Please remember, write that down. Kevin Bratcher is the chair of the Elections Constitutional Amendment Committee in the House. He is working with us. It's a comprehensive bill on improvement of elections. There's several things in there, but one of those is exactly what I'm talking about. That it also allows us to use independents as precinct officers. Currently, we cannot use independents unless we have special permission from State Board of Elections. It has to be a last-ditch effort. There are 4,000 independents in Madison County registered right now. Something else that we've worked on and that Senator McDaniel has proposed for years and years and years is to move the statewide elections to the presidential election calendar. That completely removes an election from the cycle. Then we have elections every other year. If this bill had passed the first year it was introduced, we would not have had this election last year. We'd be having it now. It would save millions of dollars across the state. And I'm glad to see that it's moved up to Senate Bill 3 now. The number keeps getting lower every year. It never sees the light of day in the House. I don't know why, but if you can encourage anyone, that makes total sense. It's not a partisan thing. It doesn't take effect until
2028.
2028.
Yeah.
So you don't know
I think
who
it's
the governor's going to be.
Yeah.
That's going to get
Right.
5 years. So the state officers are going to get 5 years. It's the only way you can adjust it. We don't know who those state officers are going to be.
Well, if you think about it, they did that back in the 90s for.
That's
for,
why we're, we had
Kent
elections.
and Larry, they both got 5 years back then, because
Very
they
nice.
were on the court. I mean, whoever was on the court then.
We used to have elections every year,
Mhm.
and we adjusted that calendar. It's time to adjust this one. We don't have the luxury. The money's not there. You guys have to cover all the costs for this. So I appreciate y'all's consideration. We're doing all we can to keep this down. I suspect that if we go with, there's other improvements that I'd like to do that could lower this number and improve the experience for the voter. But right now, we've done almost all we can think of to do to try to recruit more people, and this is the last effort.
Kenny, you said something about that you could have less scanners and stuff.
We can.
Does that go into maybe making that $11,000 increase, I mean, a little bit less,
We
but
can.
based off not having to have the scanners or not purchasing those
No,
scanners?
we won't have to purchase any more scanners, but we won't need the number of scanners we have now. So that's less programming, because it's a per scanner charge to program and test those. And then we could sell those back to ES&S, the company we
Okay.
use. They've offered to buy those back at full price. We are, this being presidential, we're gonna send out all the scanners we've got. So if there's 4 precincts in a location, they're gonna have 4 scanners. I anticipate in November that we'll go to 3 scanners in one of those locations. I meant to mention too, this has been before the Board of Elections, and they did approve this before I brought it to you.
And that's our local Board of Elections?
Yes.
Could you say who that is? Could you tell us who that is?
That is Ella McWhorter Stone, is our Republican representative. Mike Park, I didn't have to ask you, I just looked at you. Completely blank. Mike Park's our Democratic representative, and Sheriff Cole and myself are on back at the board.
If you have to split a precinct, do you have to get additional equipment for that?
No, that's the beauty in this. Our scanners, you can scan every ballot in the county on one scanner. We've had that technology for years. It just we weren't able to use it. So like I say, we got permission through state board to do this thing that doesn't say you can't, but nowhere in the election, laws usually don't tell you what you can do, they tell you what you can't do. It doesn't say we can't do this. So I'm really interested. There's a couple other laws out there that are floating that aren't gonna get any traction about like polling centers, having 5 polling centers versus precincts scattered throughout the county. I anticipate the next 3 or 4 years you'll hear more about that. That would save a lot of money and be a lot of convenience. A voter could vote at any one of those 5 polling centers, didn't matter where you lived. So if there's one near work, you go at lunch and vote rather than have to go back to where you live. You work in Berea, live in Richmond, you can vote in Berea. That's a little revolutionary right now for the legislators' appetite, but we're doing all we can to try to modernize this process a little bit.
So Kenny, you've had trouble getting workers in the past? Is that what
Every year, yeah,
every
and
year?
it's not just us, it's every county.
Repeat workers that you're getting to come back, or?
Across the state, I don't know our average age. I know that Secretary Grimes, sometime in her second term, I think the average age in the state of Kentucky was 63.
So basically, you're getting retired.
Yeah, but those folks, like I say, it's not it's, some folks come to our election school and think that we're gonna pay them to sit in a chair and greet people. And that's not what it is. We have to, you have to administer the election that day. It's not an easy job. A lot of folks are on their feet for, 10 hours that day. So folks of that age, one, can't, or two, don't feel like it. They just don't, feel like putting that kind of time in. So we're mostly looking for folks that are, most of our folks are retired from something else, or they're on the other end of the spectrum. They're younger. We're very fortunate to have a lot of people that take off work, they take vacation day and come work the election.
Give us the pay scale one more time.
It's, we're going to $200 for the day for the election officers. And that's $190 for the day, and then $10 for the school.
It was 150.
Yes.
And then there was something that was 250.
The PLCs are $250. They're the ones that are actually there. We started that last year, and it was a huge success, where they have their own iPad that's on lookup mode. If somebody's having trouble, they get sent to the PLC to call us to figure out why they're not showing up in the roster and that kind of thing.
Troubleshooter, basically.
Yes, there are eyes and ears.
Yeah.
Before we had no eyes and ears.
And they used to be 200, now they're 250.
250.
And then the election officers were 150 and gonna be 200. I wanna make sure it's clear, because I heard a minute ago 100 to 150, so
No, sorry.
150
No,
to
it's a $50
200.
increase on
Yeah,
both
okay,
people.
okay.
There's one PLC to every voting precinct.
Every voting
no.
location has more
Okay.
than one precinct. We have two precincts, just have one, so there's no reason to send a PLC to that, because we only have one precinct in those two locations.
Well,
How much money did we get returned from the place last year?
300 and something like that.
oh yeah,
For the state?
for his 4-year term was almost $1 million.
Okay. And it's our obligation to pay what he's talking about here.
Yeah, we have to pay for elections. I mean, even though Kenny gives
Right.
from the clerk's office money
Right.
back to the court, every quarter, I mean, it's still our obligation to pay for elections, so it's not like he can deduct it out of his money he gives back. We have to pay it, so, yeah, by statute.
Yeah, and I don't look at our excess fees are what they are. I don't
Yeah, right.
ever figure, well, we gave this much back. We need to spend X number of dollars to get some of that back. That's money I figured we.
This is just a
county-
problem that you've had, and this is not just a Madison County problem. Again, it's a statewide problem.
And we're working, and we're getting, I cannot remember the chair's name before. I think he got appointed judge or ran for judge. Can't remember his name. He worked with us on this bill last year, and then luckily
The
Representative
chair of the
Bratcher-
state board?
No, the chair of the election committee on the election constitutional amendments on the House side.
Okay. I don't remember.
But luckily, we're really getting a lot of help with this time, and we definitely appreciate it.
Okay. Anything else, guys? All right. Next, judges report. Just got a few announcements. Richmond Area Arts Council 2020 Mardi Gras celebration will be Saturday, February 22nd, beginning at 6:30 p.m. at the Richmond Area Arts Council here on Water Street, if anybody's interested. Also, we have our 44th District tournament games coming up the week of February the 24th at Eastern Kentucky University's Alumni Coliseum. Check out your local media for exact brackets and times of the games. The Richmond Chamber of Commerce's 2020 legislative trip to Frankfort will be Tuesday, February 25th. Please contact Richmond Chamber of Commerce if you're interested in going and for more information. The Madison County Humane Society's Fiesta Bowl Chili Supper will be Friday, February the 28th from 5 until 8 p.m. at the Russell Action Folk Center in Berea. Adults are $12 and children are $5 at the door. Madison County Courthouse and its related offices will be closed this Monday, February 17th, 2020 for President's Day. We will reopen on Tuesday, February 18th at 8 a.m. And then last but not least, I want to give out a shout out to our animal shelter and our team and staff out there for opening up this past Saturday. Had an awesome event. Actually, I stopped by there. My wife and I stopped by there. Thanks to Wallingford Broadcasting as well. Kelly sent some teams out. Sorry, Kelly, I don't remember the radio stations and all that, the numbers, but our local Wallingford Broadcasting went out and was live from our animal shelter. Had a lot of participation, a lot of people stopped by. I think the event was maybe from 9 to 1 or something like that. But just kudos to our new lead out there, Katie and Roger and Bobby and Jeff. So for all their leadership out there and really trying to turn around our animal shelter and really put a better face to it. So thanks to those guys. Next is comments from magistrates. I
believe that was the Coyote that was out there.
The Coyote.
100.7. And I know that was a good turnout as I was heading into Richmond, and I thought, well, I'll stop by there and see what's going on. There wasn't any place to park.
Yeah.
Couldn't get in the parking lot.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, they're doing things right out here today.
Yeah, it was good.
I don't have a lot, Judge, just to let everybody know, we went to that conference last week, the judges' conference over in Lexington. You know, every time you go to one of those things, sometimes you hear a lot of the same things, but every now and then you hear, and I say every now and then, at all of them, you hear something that you didn't know. You always learn something that you didn't know. And, you know, just one of the tidbits that was reinforced there this time was from Transportation Secretary, and that was that there's $35 million, if it stays in there, proposed in the budget for the airports and the various other transportations. There was $20 million in the last one, so that's a good thing, and maybe that'll help out our airport out there. So that was good news, and we were glad to hear that. Still working on roads. We've still got Hagan Mill that we've got to do some work out on there, so please be patient out there, and please, I know a lot of people use that as a cut through sometimes at night to get to work and going back and forth, so just, I think the barrels are still up there, Willie, right? So just take your time going through there and be careful, because that's a dangerous spot. That's all I got, Judge.
Thanks, John.
Judge, I'd just like to, Tom already mentioned it, but Roger, Tom and I went to the judges' conference over in Lexington this past week. We spoke with several legislators who were there. Also got to speak with the governor on a brief, and the senior advisor for the governor, Rocky Atkins. And I'm fairly close friends with Rocky, so I think we've got a little connections down there. We listened to several good speakers and got some good ideas. Even President Stivers of the Senate mentioned some ideas about some rehab programs that are needed statewide. He didn't mention where the fundings were going to come from, but you know, we've shared that idea for several years now that incarceration alone is not dealing with this addiction problem. We have to have some rehab programs along with some technical basic life skill training and get these people back to work and get them away from the drug atmosphere and the drug communities that they're familiar with. They have to have some worth in life to continue and proceed without recidivism. I'd just like to mention that the Oliver Fiscal Court will be back in Frankfurt on February the 20th for Legislative Day. If you have some issues on your local level that you want us to go and talk to the legislators about, please contact us, and we'll be willing to share those on to Frankfurt. We've had a little minor flooding here in Madison County, nothing major, but it looks like we're going to get several more inches the rest of the week. So stay safe and don't drive through any standing water. That's all I got to say, Judge.
Thanks, buddy. Raj?
Like Tom and John had mentioned, we went to the conference, fairly good conference. The one breakout session that we went to that I was disappointed in was the one about the jails, because all she did was put up a screen and put up some numbers and figures, which we already knew.
And use us.
Oh yeah, you know how full the jails are and how many's being transported to this county and the other county. We know all that. We need some help with some kind of problem solving to get rid of this. And The only thing I heard from the others that spoke was a little bit about working on the judicial part of it, you know, to help, and that also needs to be done. But we've been going to these conferences now for the last 2 or 3 years and hearing the same thing. They know we got a problem if they don't have any answers, and that's why we're trying to convince a lot of the people out here. You know, it's not that we're not trying. Something has to be offered to us from the state coming down to the counties, but it's just not there. On the rain issue that they mentioned, hadn't even thought about this really, and I'm sure most people do, but just to remind everybody, I was driving roads that I knew that usually would get flooded or a lot of water standing, and a lady happened to be going out to a pen to let her dog out because there was already water in his pen. So you need to remember your animals, make sure that if it's rained a lot that you don't leave them pinned up to where they can't get out of high water or whatever. Sometimes we'll worry about ourselves more than we do our animals and just forget about them. That's all I got, Judge.
Thanks, Ross.
Mhm.
Kenny, you good?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Judge, I would like to mention,
Speak
sorry,
up.
Kenny. I'm a little congested, so speaking up may be harder. One of the organizations that's dear to me is the Hope Swings Domestic Violence Shelter. We've had to do some scheduling changing, but they have their big fundraiser coming up on March 6th, the jail and bail. So, I mean, if Judge or Clerk Barger or anybody wants to be arrested, and try to raise some funds to get them out, maybe they'll get lucky enough to be able to bail themselves out. But if that's something anybody even in the community is interested in, if they want to contact Jennifer Lanehart out at Hope Swings Domestic Violence Shelter, she can send the information out. It's a good day. They provide breakfast and lunch at Central Bank, so you come in, and this year we'll let it set up that you can take a mug shot. If you really want to get arrested, they'll send out someone to actually arrest you and bring you in too. So it's a good thing, but it goes to a really good cause. So
Will you say that date again, please?
it's March 6th.
And you can turn yourself in, right?
You can turn yourself in. You don't have to be arrested.
Thanks, Chancellor. Appreciate it. Sheriff?
No, sir.
Steve?
Thank you. Just a quick update on some of the jail numbers. Today we have 362 in-house. We have 54 on home incarceration and 20 out in other counties. Those numbers continue to get a little better all the time. Of special note on the 20 that are out of county, most of those are in Casey County, and their per diem rate is even less than ours. So it's really kind of a swap. It's not really costing us anything extra to have those 20 in Casey County. It would be about the same money if they were in-house. They're $28 and it's costing us about 30 now. And even with the transport and deputy cost, it would be about a wash. So best place we could possibly have them. That's the cheapest per diem rate around. And also, is just so people know that the reason these numbers are slowly coming down is because we are meeting with people and we are talking to folks. We do have a rocket docket that is successful, and it's making all of the programs work faster and getting the inmates through the court system faster. Therefore, they're getting out of jail sooner and they're not staying as long. The circuit court judges, even the district court judges, Commonwealth attorney, all of these people are law enforcement agencies. They're writing citations instead of making arrests everywhere they possibly can. We're talking about it as a community and as a group, and it's working and it's helping.
So I just have a question, this, Steve, if you don't mind. Because we've gone through a tough year.
Yes, very tough.
This court has gone through a seriously tough 6 months, and we had to make some hard decisions based off of our numbers getting way out of control.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're basically, that wasn't happening prior to. Before. You don't think that what we've gone through has, I guess, brought more people closer together to try to work together better to solve
and
this
it's highlighted where the issues are. The people that could make a difference maybe didn't know that they could, and they didn't know how bad the problem was.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a communication issue.
Yeah.
We are communicating. Everybody is getting on the same page. We're beginning, just got an email yesterday from Judge Logue. we will have our first meeting of our Criminal Justice Commission for Madison County. That'll be coming up in a couple of weeks. And again, that's just an effort to get everybody on the same page and talk about it.
Yeah, yeah, it's good.
Mhm.
I know Jenny's done, recently been doing a lot. I know David Smith, our Commonwealth attorney.
David's been wonderful,
I think,
and Jenny.
they have regular meetings, I know, and I had a meeting with David the other day, and he kind of explained some things to me better. And I know he's working really, really, really hard on, on his side
Mhm.
of trying to help.
But, and also I've been working with the National Institute of Corrections, and they come in at my request. They've had a couple of on-site visits now. I have the report from one of those. I'll have the report on the other one soon, and I'll share that with everybody.
Yeah, that's good.
Some really good information in that will help us move forward and do the right things. But I just want people in the community to know that we're not just sitting back and waiting on something good or bad to happen. We're making things happen, and we're doing the very best we can.
Yep. Thanks, Steve. That's good.
Thanks, Steve.
Any comments, guys? Anything else? All right. It's good. Comments from department heads. Anybody today? Everybody good? Comments from the audience? Anybody in the audience? No comments from the audience today. Need a motion to pay the claims and approve the transfers, please.
So move.
Have a motion and a second. Call the roll.
Master Tudor,
Yes.
Master Buckin,
Yes.
Master Burger.
Yes.
Judge Taylor.
Yes. Next court meeting will be February the 25th, 2020 here in Richmond. Again, that'll be February 25th, 2020 here in Richmond, and that will be at 9:30 a.m. I need a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second. Have a motion and a second. Call the roll.
Master Buckin,
Yes.
Master Burger,
Yes.
Master Tudor,
Yes.
Judge Taylor.
Yes. Thanks, guys.